Kron, the render's rotary plasma cannon, spun up with a high-pitched whine. The 6 barrels glowed orange as they heated, ready to unleash a storm of superheated death. The corridor was narrow here, no cover, nowhere to hide. It was a perfect kill zone. Scatter! Velthar shouted. The strike team dove in all directions. Gron and the Braxton troopers went left, their heavy armor scraping the walls. Crystallis and Vex went right, moving with liquid grace. The Sarkathi warriors tried to press forward, but Kron opened fire. The plasma storm was devastating. Hundreds of bolts per second filled the corridor with light and heat. The air itself seemed to burn. Velthar's shield overloaded in seconds. A Sarkathi warrior named Thren took a direct hit and went down, his armor smoking. The others retreated, unable to advance against such firepower. Hana had gone prone, lying flat against the floor. The plasma bolts screamed overhead, so close she could feel their heat. Her wooden rifle was pressed against her shoulder. She studied Kron through the chaos, looking for weaknesses. His armor was incredible. Military-grade composite layered with reactive plating. Energy shields shimmered around him, dispersing heat and kinetic impacts. His helmet was fully sealed, no vulnerable openings. He stood in the center of the corridor like an immovable fortress. Rail pistols won't scratch that armor, Dane called out, firing anyway. His shot sparked off Kron's chest plate, doing nothing. Gron fired his magnetic accelerator. The slug hit Kron's shoulder with tremendous force. The massive mercenary didn't even flinch. His armor absorbed the impact completely, see? Kron laughed, his voice amplified through his helmet speakers. You can't hurt me. I'm wearing Draxian power armor, top of the line. I could stand here all day while you waste ammunition. Crystallis threw 3 of her sharpest spikes. They shattered against Kron's shields without touching his actual armor. She pulled back behind cover, her compound eyes analyzing frantically. Velthar tried to coordinate his team. Concentrated fire! All weapons on one point. The Sarkathi warriors aimed at Kron's chest and fired together. The rail pistol shots converged, slamming into the same spot on his armor. For a moment, it seemed to work. The armor cracked slightly. Then Kron adjusted his aim and fired directly at the Sarkathi position. The plasma barrage forced them back, scattering them. The crack in his armor sealed itself as nano repair systems kicked in. This isn't working, Velthar snarled in frustration. We need heavy weapons, something that can punch through that armor. We left the heavy weapons behind, Gron said. Too risky with those reflective panels. Hana remained still on the floor watching. She wasn't watching Kron anymore. She was watching the corridor around him. The ceiling, the walls, the structural supports. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her memory. Sometimes you don't need to break the fortress. Sometimes you just need to understand how it stands. The corridor's ceiling had exposed beams, standard station construction, designed to hold sections together while allowing maintenance access. Most of the beams were thick and sturdy. But one, directly above Kron, looked wrong. It was newer than the others, welded in place after some previous damage. The welds were visible even from Hana's position. She traced the beam's load in her mind. It supported part of the ceiling, but more importantly, it held a lighting panel and part of the ventilation system. If that beam broke, a lot of weight would come down. Not on Kron. His armor could handle falling debris. But around him, Hana shifted slightly, adjusting her angle. The beam's weakest point was where it met the wall, where the welding had been done poorly. She could see the seam, a thin line of imperfection. Human, Kron's voice boomed. I see you down there. Do you really think that wooden toy will save you? He adjusted his cannon's aim downward. Hana didn't answer. She aimed her wooden rifle up at a 40-degree angle, targeting the weld seam on the beam. It was a difficult shot. The target was small, the angle awkward. But she'd practiced difficult shots for years in her grandfather's workshop. She fired. The wooden bullet flew true, striking the weld seam. The old weld cracked. Not much, just a hairline fracture. Not enough to bring the beam down, Kron laughed. What was that supposed to do? Hana fired again, same spot. The crack widened. Stop wasting bullets, human. Third shot. The weld split completely on one side. The beam groaned but held, supported by the weld on the opposite side. Kron finally understood what she was doing. He started to move, but his massive armor made him slow. Hana fired a 4th time. The beam broke. It didn't fall straight down. It twisted as it fell, one end still partially attached to the wall. The lighting panel it supported came loose, sparking. The ventilation system section tore free with a shriek of metal. Debris crashed down around Kron. not hitting him directly but landing in a rough circle. And 3 pieces of that debris landed on reflective wall panels. The panels, already loosened by earlier fighting, fell forward. They tilted at angles, creating a funhouse mirror arrangement around Kron. He stood in the center of a bowl made of reflective surfaces, all angled slightly inward. Clever, Kron admitted, but pointless. You still can't hurt me through my armor. We don't need to, Velthar said. Understanding dawned in his yellow eyes. Kron, you might want to stop firing that plasma cannon now, Kron sneered. Why would I? Then he saw it. The reflective panels surrounding him all angled inward. Any plasma shot he fired would bounce off the panels and reflect back toward the center. Back toward him. His finger was already squeezing the trigger. The rotary cannon fired. 6 plasma bolts streaked outward in different directions. They hit the angled reflective panels and bounced. In the normal corridor, the bolts would have scattered randomly. But here, in this impromptu focusing array, they all bounced inward. Kron's shields lit up as they absorbed the impacts of his own plasma fire. He released the trigger immediately, but the cannon had already fired dozens of bolts. They ricocheted around the reflective bowl, bouncing multiple times. Most of them eventually dissipated against his shields or armor. But Kron's armor wasn't invincible from all angles. It was strongest in front, designed to face enemies. The back plating, while still formidable, was weaker, and one plasma bolt, bouncing at just the right angle off 3 different panels, struck him directly in the back. The bolt burned through the weaker rear plating and hit his power supply. Kron's entire armor system sparked and went dark. His shields dropped. His servomotors locked. He stood frozen in his dead armor, trapped like a turtle flipped on its back. No, he said, his amplified voice now just a whisper. No, this isn't possible. Velthar stood and walked forward slowly, his rail pistol aimed at Kron's now vulnerable helmet. Stay down, mercenary. You're done. Kron didn't resist. He couldn't. His armor was completely offline. The strike team approached the reinforced door. Kron examined it briefly. It's locked from the inside. The hostages must have sealed themselves in, Velthar called out. This is Captain Velthar of the peacekeeping vessel Celestial Dawn. We're here to rescue you. Open the door. A moment of silence, then the heavy locks clicked open. The door slid aside, revealing 63 terrified scientists. They stared at the strike team, then at Kron's immobilized form, then at the strange arrangement of reflective panels. You're safe now, Velthar assured them. Medical teams are on the way. As the scientists filed out, staying far away from Kron, Dane approached Hana. The young Sarkathi warrior had a new respect in his eyes. That shot, he said, the one that brought down the beam. That was incredible. It was necessary, Hana replied simply. 4 shots to the same tiny target, from an awkward angle while under fire. Dane shook his head. I couldn't have made that shot with a computer-assisted scope. You did it with a wooden rifle in your own eyes. Chrysalis joined them, her compound eyes studying Hana with fascination. You saw something none of us saw. The structural weakness, the reflective panels, the angles. You turned the corridor into a weapon. My grandfather taught me, Hana said. He said every battlefield is full of weapons if you know how to look. Sometimes the best weapon isn't the one in your hands. Velthar oversaw the securing of Kron and the extraction of the hostages. When everything was organized, he returned to Hana. For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then slowly, deliberately, he brought his fist to his chest in a Sarkathi salute of respect. Private Hana Kim, he said formally, I owe you my life. More than that, I owe you an apology. I judged your weapon by its appearance and you by your species. Both judgments were wrong. Thank you, sir. No, Velthar said firmly. Thank you. You saved not just me, but this entire mission. Without your weapon, your training, your way of thinking, we would have failed. The other strike team members gathered around. One by one, they offered their own forms of respect. Kron gave her a Braxton warrior's nod. Chrysalis touched Hana's shoulder with one crystalline hand, a gesture of deep trust in her species. The Sarkathi warriors saluted. As they prepared to leave the station, Hana cleaned her wooden rifle carefully. It had performed perfectly, just as her grandfather promised it would. She thought of him in his workshop, patiently carving patterns and calculating trajectories. The galaxy had advanced weapons that could destroy planets, but sometimes survival came down to simple things. The alarm woke Hana from a dream about home. Red lights flashed in her quarters as the ship's emergency system blared its warning tone. She grabbed her rifle and was dressed in under a minute, running toward the briefing room with dozens of other soldiers. The briefing room was chaos. Officers shouted orders while holographic displays showed a space station surrounded by unmarked ships. Hana found Borum near the back of the crowd. He nodded to her, his face grim. "What's happening?" she asked. "Station Helios 7, Borum said. Research outpost on the edge of the disputed zone. Pirates hit it 6 hours ago. They're holding hostages." Captain Velthar stood at the front of the room studying the tactical display. The space station rotated slowly in the hologram, its various sections color-coded. Red sections indicated pirate control. Yellow meant uncertain. Only 2 sections showed green, and those were just empty storage bays. "Listen up." Velthar's voice cut through the noise. "The Ravager Coalition has seized Station Helios 7. 63 scientists and staff are trapped inside. The station's position makes orbital strikes impossible. We go in on foot, clear the hostiles, extract the civilians." A murmur ran through the assembled soldiers. The Ravager Coalition was notorious. They weren't simple thieves. They were ex-military from a dozen different species, all with combat training and good equipment. "I need a strike team," Velthar continued. He pointed at soldiers around the room. "Dain, Makros, Thran, Ulax, you 4 Sarkathi are with me." He pointed at 2 Veloni. Crystallis, Vex, sniper support. 3 Braxton troopers, including Gron, got selected next. "Heavy assault." Velthar studied the room, his yellow eyes scanning faces. He seemed to be finished selecting when Borum spoke up. "Captain, you need another soldier. Regulations require teams of 12 minimum for station assaults." Velthar's jaw clenched. "Fine, you human." He pointed at Hana. "Rear support. Try not to shoot anyone on our side with your wooden stick." Some soldiers laughed. Others just looked uncomfortable. Hana kept her expression neutral. "Yes, sir." 20 minutes later, they were aboard a dropship streaking toward Station Helios 7. Hana sat between 2 Braxton troopers, her small frame dwarfed by their bulk. Gron sat across from her, checking his triple cannon for the 5th time. "So," Gron said, his voice surprisingly light for someone so massive. "You really going into combat with that thing?" He gestured at Hana's wooden rifle. "Yes." "Why?" "Ship armory has plenty of plasma rifles. Hell, we got magnetic accelerators, phase pistols, even some old-style lasers. Why bring wood to a gunfight?" Hana ran her hand along the rifle's smooth stock. The geometric patterns felt familiar under her fingers. "My grandfather made this. He was a master craftsman. Every part of this weapon has a purpose." "What purpose?" "Looking pretty? Working when everything else fails." Gron laughed, but there was less mockery in it than before. "Okay, I'll bite. How's wood better than plasma?" "It's not better. It's different. Plasma can be deflected by magnetic fields. Phase weapons don't work well in certain dimensional frequencies. Energy shields can block most advanced weapons." Hana paused. "A wooden bullet doesn't care about any of that. It just flies straight and hits what you aim at." Crystallis, the Veloni sniper, had been listening. Her compound eyes refracted the dropship's light into rainbow patterns. "Show me the weapon," she said, her voice like wind chimes. Hana handed over the rifle. Crystallis examined it with her multiple eyes, seeing in spectrums humans couldn't perceive. Her crystalline fingers traced the geometric patterns. After a long moment, she handed it back. "What you see?" Gron asked. "Complexity hidden as simplicity," Crystallis said softly. "The patterns are mathematical formulas. Barrel harmonics, projectile spin ratios, recoil distribution curves. This weapon is more precisely engineered than my phase rifle." Velthar turned from the pilot's compartment. "Enough chatter. 5 minutes to insertion." The dropship shook as it entered the station's docking bay. Through the viewport, Hana saw the pirates' ships, ugly patchwork vessels bristling with weapons. The dropship touched down with a gentle thud. "Team formation," Velthar ordered. Sarkathi front, Braxton middle, Veloni on flanks. Human takes rear position. "Move out." They exited into an empty docking bay. The station's artificial gravity felt heavy after the dropship. Emergency lights cast everything in red shadow. The air smelled like burned circuits and fear. Velthar checked his tactical display. Life signs detected 3 levels up. That's where they're holding the hostages. Stay tight. Watch for ambush. They moved through the station's corridors in combat formation. The walls were standard station construction, metal panels with exposed conduits running along the ceiling. Their footsteps echoed despite efforts to move quietly. Corporal Dane, one of the younger Sarkathi, spoke quietly. Too quiet. Where are the sentries? They know we're here, Velthar said. They're waiting. Stay alert. They reached a junction. The corridor split in 3 directions. Velthar consulted his display. Left path 200 meters to the central lift. That takes us to the hostage level. They turned left, moving into a narrower corridor. Hana noticed something odd about the walls. They were shinier than normal station panels, almost reflective. She opened her mouth to mention it when the ambush hit. Pirates burst from hidden doorways ahead and behind. 30 at least, maybe more. They opened fire immediately, filling the corridor with energy blasts and projectiles. The strike team's shields flared as they absorbed hits. Return fire, Velthar roared. The corridor became a storm of light and noise. Plasma bolts streaked in both directions. The Braxton troopers opened up with their heavy weapons. Crystalis and Vex fired their phase rifles from behind cover. The Sarkathi warriors advanced, their plasma rifles cutting down pirates. Then something went wrong. A plasma bolt from Ulax's rifle hit the shiny wall panel and bounced. Not scattered or absorbed, bounced like light off a mirror. The bolt ricocheted at a sharp angle and struck one of the Braxton troopers in the back. His shields held, but barely. Watch your fire, Gron shouted. The walls are reflective. More plasma bolts bounced off the panels. The corridor became a deadly pinball machine. Energy weapons firing in one direction and reflecting back from unpredictable angles. A Sarkathi warrior named Macros took a hit from his own reflected shot. Dine nearly lost his head to a bolt that bounced 3 times before dissipating. The pirates knew about the reflective panels. They'd positioned themselves carefully, using normal wall sections as cover while the strike team stood exposed in the reflective zone. Fall back, Velthar ordered, but retreating meant turning their backs to enemy fire. Gron's partner, a Braxton named Thorg, went down when a phase rifle shot bounced back and overloaded his shield generator. Crystalis stopped firing entirely, her tactical mind recognizing the impossibility of the situation. Velthar, rage overtaking caution, raised his personal plasma cannon. The weapon was massive, capable of punching through ship bulkheads. Enough of this! He aimed at the largest concentration of pirates and fired. The plasma bolt was huge, a sun-hot sphere of contained energy. It streaked down the corridor, hit a reflective panel and bounced at a 90-degree angle. It struck another panel on the ceiling and bounced again. Then again off the floor, the bolt was coming back straight toward Velthar. Time seemed to slow. The massive Sarkathi captain stood frozen, watching his own weapon return to kill him. His shields were already depleted from earlier hits. The plasma bolt would go right through him. From the rear position, Hana raised her wooden rifle and fired. The wooden bullet, carved with precise mathematical patterns, flew true. It intercepted the plasma bolt 3 meters from Velthar's face. The bullet exploded into splinters, burning away instantly, but the collision changed the plasma bolt's trajectory by just a few inches. The bolt missed Velthar's head by a finger's width. It seared past his shoulder, burning through armor but missing flesh. The corridor went silent. Everyone, strike team and pirates alike, stared at the human with the wooden rifle. The armory of the Celestial Dawn smelled like hot metal and ozone. Private Hana Kim stood in line with 40 other soldiers, waiting for the weekly weapons inspection. Around her, aliens of every shape and size held their advanced firearms. Plasma rifles hummed with barely contained energy. Magnetic accelerators gleamed under the harsh white lights. Phase rifles shimmered as they cycled through different dimensional frequencies. Hana held a wooden rifle. The weapon was beautiful in its simplicity. Dark lacquered wood, smooth as glass, with intricate geometric patterns carved along the stock and barrel. It looked like something from a museum, not a battlefield. Her grandfather, Taemin, had spent 3 months crafting it, using techniques passed down through 8 generations of Korean weaponsmiths. What is that supposed to be? The voice came from behind her, deep and rumbling. Hana didn't turn around. She knew who spoke. Captain Velthar, commander of the Sarkathi warriors aboard the ship. 7 feet of muscle and scarlet scales, with a combat record that filled 2 data files. "It's my service weapon, sir," Hana said quietly. Laughter erupted from the Sarkathi soldiers. Velthar pushed past the line to stand in front of Hana. His yellow eyes studied the wooden rifle with undisguised contempt. He hefted his own weapon, a plasma cannon that could punch through ship armor. "This is a weapon," Velthar said, shaking his cannon. Energy crackled along its barrel. "That is kindling." More laughter. Even soldiers from other species joined in. A crystalline Valoni sniper made tinkling sounds that passed for amusement in her species. 3 hulking Braxton troopers slapped their massive hands together, in what might have been applause or mockery. Hana couldn't tell which. Lieutenant Borum Lee, the only other human officer in the armory, stepped forward. "Captain Velthar, Private Kim's weapon has passed all safety certifications." "Safety certifications?" Velthar's voice dripped with scorn. "Lieutenant, I could break that stick over my knee. Does Earth truly send its soldiers into space with toys?" Hana's grip tightened on her rifle, but her face remained calm. She'd heard worse during basic training. The galaxy viewed humans as newcomers, primitives who'd only joined the interstellar community 2 generations ago. Most alien species had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. They had weapons that could disintegrate matter, shields that could stop nuclear explosions, and armor that adapted to any threat. And here stood Hana with a wooden rifle her grandfather had carved by hand. "All weapons to inspection stations," called the armory master, a bored-looking Valoni with 6 arms. The soldiers moved to their designated spots. Hana placed her rifle on the scanning platform. The sensors beeped and hummed, analyzing every molecule. "Weapon classification. Kinetic projectile launcher," the computer announced in its flat voice. "Materials. Organic composite. Energy signature. None. Threat assessment. Minimal." "Minimal," Velthar repeated, loud enough for everyone to hear. "My weapon is classified as catastrophic. But please, Private Kim, do tell us how your wooden stick will save our lives in combat." Hana retrieved her rifle from the scanner. "It fires projectiles at high velocity, sir. Same as any rifle." "Projectiles?" One of the Braxton troopers leaned forward. His name was Gron, and he carried a weapon that looked like 3 cannons welded together. "What kind of projectiles? Wooden bullets?" He laughed at his own joke. "Yes, sir," Hana said. The laughter died. Gron stared at her, unsure if she was joking. "You're serious? Wooden bullets? Carved from the same composite as the rifle. They're aerodynamically optimized and—" "Enough," Velthar interrupted. "I've heard enough. Lieutenant Lee, your soldier is an embarrassment to this vessel. When we face real combat, that wooden toy will get her killed. Probably get others killed too." Borum's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. As a lieutenant, he couldn't challenge a captain openly. Hana appreciated his restraint. Making this situation worse wouldn't help anyone. The inspection ended, and soldiers filed out toward the training deck. Today was combat drills, the part of the week everyone loved or hated depending on their skill level. The training deck was massive, a space the size of a sports stadium with holographic projectors that could simulate any battlefield. Velthar's squad went first. Hana watched from the observation platform as the Sarkathi warriors moved through a simulated urban environment. Enemy holograms appeared and the aliens opened fire. Plasma bolts turned concrete to vapor. Walls exploded. The enemy holograms dissolved under the barrage of energy weapons. The whole drill lasted 90 seconds. The scoreboard flashed. Target elimination, 100%. Time, 87 seconds. Efficiency, optimal. "Now that," Velthar announced, turning to look up, at the observation deck where Hana stood, "is how real soldiers fight." The Braxton team went next, then the Valoni snipers. Each demonstration showed the devastating power of advanced weaponry. Phase rifles shot through walls to hit targets behind cover. Magnetic accelerators fired projectiles that curved around corners. Energy shields absorbed incoming fire while allowing outgoing shots to pass through. Finally, it was Hana's turn. She walked onto the training deck alone. Human soldiers usually trained in pairs, but Borum was scheduled for a different time slot. The holographic projectors hummed to life, creating a battlefield environment. Abandoned buildings, rubble-strewn streets, perfect ambush terrain. From the observation deck, Hana heard the comments. "This should be entertaining. Think she'll hit anything?" How long before she asked to switch to a real weapon? Belthar's voice rose above the others. Begin the drill, Private Kim. Show us what that wooden stick can do. The simulation started. Enemy holograms appeared in windows, behind cover, on rooftops. Hana raised her rifle smoothly, aimed, and fired. The sound was different from energy weapons. No crackling plasma, no magnetic hum. Just a soft thump as compressed air drove the wooden projectile down the barrel. The bullet struck the first hologram center mass. The hologram flickered and disappeared. Hana moved forward, her steps measured and calm. Another target appeared to her left. She turned and fired without breaking stride. Hit. A target emerged from behind a wall. She fired. Hit. 3 targets on a rooftop. She dropped to one knee and fired 3 times in rapid succession. Hit. 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 The wooden rifle made no light show, no impressive energy discharge. It just worked. Quiet and efficient. Hana cleared the first section of the battlefield and moved into an alley where 5 targets waited in close quarters. She fired. 5 times, the wooden projectiles striking true each time. The observation deck had gone quiet. Hana reached the final objective, a building where the simulation's main target hid. She climbed the stairs methodically, checking corners. On the 3rd floor, she found her target, a hologram representing a heavily armored enemy commander. She fired twice. The first shot struck the hologram's weapon. The second hit its chest. Simulation complete. The scoreboard flashed. Target elimination, 100%. Time, 94 seconds. Efficiency, optimal. Hana lowered her rifle and walked off the training deck. In the silence, she could hear her own footsteps echoing. She climbed back to the observation platform and stood at attention. Belthar stared at her, his expression unreadable. Finally, he spoke. Lucky shots. Yes, sir, Hana said. But she could see it in his eyes, in the eyes of all the aliens who'd mocked her. They were wondering the same thing. What if it wasn't luck? Captain Velthar touched his shoulder where the plasma bolt had burned his armor. His hand came away smoking. He stared at Hana, his yellow eyes wide with shock. Around them, the reflective corridor walls still gleamed with deadly promise. What? Velthar started, then stopped. Words seemed to fail him. The pirates recovered first. They opened fire again, energy bolts lighting up the corridor. But something had changed. The strike team's advanced weapons were liabilities now. Every shot might bounce back and kill the shooter. Fear crept into the soldiers' movements. Cease fire with energy weapons. Crystalis called out, her voice cutting through the chaos. They'll kill us before they kill them. Hana stepped forward, moving past the Braxton troopers. Her wooden rifle felt solid and simple in her hands. No plasma coils to overheat. No magnetic fields to calibrate. Just wood, air pressure, and carved bullets. She aimed at a pirate firing from behind a doorway and squeezed the trigger. The soft thump of compressed air. The wooden bullet flew straight, unaffected by magnetic fields or dimensional frequencies. It struck the pirate in the shoulder, spinning him around. He dropped his weapon. Another pirate appeared on a high catwalk. Hana aimed and fired. The bullet caught him in the leg. He fell, clutching the wound. These weren't killing shots, but they were effective. Each hit took a pirate out of the fight. She's hitting them, Dane said, wonder in his voice. The human's actually hitting them. Gron watched Hana fire 3 more times. 3 more pirates falling back with wounds. He reached to his belt and pulled out a backup weapon, a magnetic accelerator pistol. Older technology that most soldiers carried but rarely used. If energy weapons won't work, he aimed and fired. The solid slug took down a pirate trying to flank them. Kinetic weapons! Velthar understood now. He dropped his plasma cannon and drew his own backup firearm, a simple rail pistol. Everyone switched to physical projectiles! The Sarkathi warriors pulled old-fashioned firearms from their equipment harnesses. The Braxton troopers had magnetic accelerators built into their armor. Even Crystalis produced a handful of crystalline throwing spikes, razor-sharp and deadly. But Hana was already moving. She advanced down the corridor with smooth, measured steps. Her rifle fired again and again, each shot placed with precision. A pirate's weapon hand, another's knee. A third shot disabled a weapon directly, the wooden bullet striking the power cell and causing it to short out. Follow the human, Velthar ordered. The strike team pushed forward. The pirates, expecting an easy fight against confused soldiers with useless weapons, found themselves facing coordinated kinetic fire. Gron's magnetic accelerator punched through light cover. Crystallis's throwing spike struck with deadly accuracy. The Sarkathi warriors' rail pistols tore into pirate positions. Hana led them through the reflective corridor section. She seemed to know exactly where to step, where to aim. A pirate tried to use the reflective panels against them, positioning himself so any shot would bounce into the strike team. Hana fired at the panel above his head. The wooden bullet struck at a precise angle, ricocheted once and hit the pirate's weapon, knocking it from his hands. "She's using the panels," Crystallis observed, amazement in her chiming voice. "The human is calculating bounce angles." They cleared the corridor in 3 minutes. 20 pirates down, none of them dead but all unable to fight. The strike team had taken no additional casualties. They reached a wider junction and Velthar called for a halt. "Regroup," he ordered. "Check ammunition and shields." Hana reloaded her rifle, sliding a fresh magazine of wooden bullets into place. Velthar approached her, his footsteps heavy. He stood there for a moment, clearly struggling with words. "You saved my life," he finally said. "With a wooden stick, you shot a plasma bolt out of the air and saved my life." "Yes, sir. How is that even possible?" Hana touched one of the geometric patterns on her rifle's stock. The patterns optimize everything about the weapon. Bullet velocity, spin rate, flight stability. My grandfather calculated trajectories for years. He knew that sometimes you need to hit something very specific, very fast. A wooden bullet travels slower than plasma, but it's more predictable. I saw your shot bounce, calculated where it would go, and fired to intercept. Velthar shook his head slowly. "Earth trains soldiers to shoot plasma bolts out of the air?" "Earth trains soldiers to solve problems, sir. Sometimes that means using old methods." "Old methods," Velthar repeated. He looked at his discarded plasma cannon with something like regret. "I've been a soldier for 20 years. I thought I knew everything about combat. But I never trained for situations where my own weapons become my enemy." Dane checked his tactical display. "Captain, the hostages are 2 levels up. But we need to cross through the central atrium. It's wide open space, multiple levels. Perfect kill zone. The pirates will have it fortified," Crystallis added. "They'll expect us to come through there." Velthar studied the station schematic on his display. "There's no other route. We have to cross the atrium. Then we adapt," Hana said quietly. All eyes turned to her. She felt the weight of their attention but continued. "The pirates set up those reflective panels because they knew you'd be using energy weapons. That's their advantage. But now we're using kinetic weapons. That's our advantage." "Explain," Velthar said. "Energy weapons light up the battlefield. Everyone can see where shots come from because of the plasma trails and energy signatures. But kinetic weapons are quieter, harder to trace. If we turn off our lights and use the station's darkness, they won't know where we're shooting from until it's too late." Gron's massive face split into a grin. "Primitive tactics. I love it." They moved to the atrium entrance. The space beyond was vast, 5 levels tall with walkways crisscrossing the open air. Emergency lights provided minimal illumination. Hana could see pirate positions on the upper levels, weapons trained on the entrance. "Lights off," Velthar ordered. The strike team disabled their armor lights and tactical beams. Darkness swallowed them. Hana's eyes adjusted quickly. Years of training in low-light conditions gave her an advantage. She moved into the atrium first, staying close to the wall. The pirates above couldn't see her clearly in the darkness. A pirate fired an energy weapon, the plasma bolt lighting up his position. Hana aimed at the flash and fired. Her wooden bullet was invisible in the darkness. The pirate cried out and fell back, clutching his arm. The strike team spread out using the darkness as cover. Each time a pirate fired and revealed his position, multiple kinetic weapons answered. The pirates, used to fighting opponents who used energy weapons with bright muzzle flashes, couldn't track the strike team's movements. Crystallis moved like a ghost, her crystalline body blending with shadows. Her throwing spikes took down 3 pirates without a sound. Gron and the other Braxton troopers used their size to advantage, drawing fire and then returning it from unexpected angles. They reached the central lift in 5 minutes. Not a single strike team member was hit. Behind them, the atrium held a dozen pirates nursing wounds, unable to continue fighting. Velthar pressed the lift call button. "I trained for 20 years to use the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. Today, a human with a wooden rifle taught me more about combat than 2 decades of military school." The lift doors opened. They crowded inside. As they ascended toward the hostage level, Hana felt the weight of their stares. These alien soldiers who'd mocked her wooden rifle now looked at her with something new in their eyes. Respect. The lift stopped. The doors opened onto a corridor lined with blast marks and bullet holes. At the far end, a massive reinforced door blocked the way. "That's the research lab," Dane said. "The hostages are inside." Between them and the door stood a figure that made even Velthar pause. Kron the Render was legendary among mercenaries. 8 feet tall, covered in cybernetic armor that looked like it belonged on a tank. His arms held a rotary plasma cannon, the kind usually mounted on vehicles. His helmet's red eyes gleamed in the darkness. "Well," Kron's voice boomed through external speakers. "The rescue team. You made it farther than I expected. But this is where your luck runs out." He raised the rotary plasma cannon. The weapon's 6 barrels began to spin. Hana raised her wooden rifle and smiled. Wood, mathematics, and the wisdom to know when old ways were better than new ones. The return journey to the Celestial Dawn was quiet. The dropship carried the strike team, the rescued hostages, and one very expensive prisoner in disabled armor. Hana sat in her usual spot between the Braxton troopers, but the atmosphere had changed completely. Where before there had been mockery and dismissal, now there was something else. Respect mixed with curiosity. Gron was the first to break the silence. "I need to know," he said, looking at Hana. "How long did it take you to learn to shoot like that?" "My grandfather started teaching me when I was 7, Hana replied. "Every day after school we would practice. He said patience and repetition build skill. 15 years of practice, Crystallis calculated, with the same weapon, same techniques. No wonder your precision is extraordinary." Velthar sat forward in his seat. His shoulder was bandaged where the plasma bolt had burned him, a reminder of how close he'd come to death. "Tell us about your grandfather. About this weapon. I think we all need to understand." Hana looked down at her wooden rifle. In the dropship's lights, the geometric pattern seemed to glow. "My grandfather is named Taemin Kim. He's a master craftsman trained in traditional Korean weapon-making techniques that go back centuries. But he's also an engineer. When humanity joined the galactic community, he saw that everyone was focused on more advanced, more complex weapons." "That makes sense," Dain said. "Advanced technology is better, right?" "Sometimes," Hana agreed. "But my grandfather asked a different question. What happens when advanced technology fails? When it gets jammed, disrupted, or turned against you like those reflective panels?" He spent 20 years developing a weapon that would work no matter what. She held up the rifle for everyone to see. "The wood comes from a hybrid bamboo species, genetically enhanced for density and flexibility. It's stronger than most metals but lighter. It doesn't conduct electricity, doesn't show up on most scanners, and doesn't react to magnetic fields." Gron reached out tentatively. "May I?" Hana handed him the rifle. He examined it carefully, his massive hands surprisingly gentle. "These patterns. Crystallis said they're mathematical formulas?" "Harmonic equations," Hana explained. "When the bullet travels down the barrel, these patterns create specific vibrations. The vibrations stabilize the bullet's flight, improve accuracy, and reduce recoil. My grandfather calculated each pattern specifically for this weapon." "And the bullets?" Velthar asked, "carved from the same material. Each one has patterns that create aerodynamic stability. They spin at a precise rate for maximum accuracy. And because they're organic material, they're biodegradable. After a few weeks, they just break down into harmless compounds." Crystallis's compound eyes reflected rainbow patterns as she processed this information. "So you carry a weapon that's stronger than it looks, can't be jammed or detected easily, and leaves no toxic waste. And it was made using techniques hundreds of years old." "Thousands of years old, actually," Hana corrected. "Korean craftsmen have been making precision weapons since ancient times. My grandfather just combined those old techniques with new materials and modern mathematics." The dropship entered the Celestial Dawn's docking bay. As they exited, Hana saw that word of the mission had spread. Dozens of crew members lined the bay, watching as the strike team emerged. The rescued hostages were immediately taken to medical. Kron was hauled away by security, still locked in his dead armor. But most eyes were on Hana and her wooden rifle. Lieutenant Borum pushed through the crowd. Relief flooded his face when he saw Hana unharmed. "Good work, Private." Captain Velthar sent a preliminary report. "It seems you saved the mission. The whole team worked together, sir. That's not what the captain said. He specifically mentioned that you saved his life, adapted tactics to counter enemy advantages, and defeated Kron the Render using environmental analysis. Borum smiled. He recommended you for commendation. Hana blinked in surprise. The captain did? He did. Borum looked past her at the wooden rifle. And he wants to know if Earth has more soldiers with weapons like that. Over the next few days, life aboard the Celestial Dawn changed for Hana. The mockery disappeared entirely. Soldiers who'd laughed at her wooden rifle now asked questions about it. How accurate was it? What was its range? Could it really shoot plasma bolts out of the air? The training deck became unusually busy. Hana would practice her drills and find herself surrounded by observers. Alien soldiers from a dozen species watched her shoot, studying her technique. Some tried their own kinetic weapons with renewed interest. Weapons they'd dismissed as outdated. Gron became particularly interested. He approached Hana after one practice session, carrying an old Braxton weapon that looked like a crossbow made of metal. "This was my grandfather's," he said. "It's called a stake launcher. Haven't used it in years because plasma cannons seemed better. But after seeing what you did on that station, I'm thinking maybe old weapons deserve another look." "Want some practice tips?" Hana offered. They spent an hour on the range together. Hana shared techniques her grandfather had taught her: breathing control, trigger discipline, environmental awareness. Gron was a quick learner. By the end of the session, he was hitting targets he'd missed at the beginning. Captain Velthar called a formal meeting 3 days after the rescue mission. The entire strike team assembled in the briefing room, along with several senior officers. Velthar stood at the front, his bearing formal and official. "This meeting is to discuss the mission to Station Helios 7 and to recognize exceptional performance," he began. His yellow eyes found Hana in the crowd. Private Hana Kim front and center. Hana walked forward, feeling every eye on her. Velthar continued. Private Kim demonstrated skills and tactical thinking that saved multiple lives, including mine. Her weapon, which many of us dismissed as primitive, proved more effective than our advanced technology in the specific combat environment we faced. He paused. "I am recommending her for promotion to corporal and assignment as a tactical instructor." Murmurs of approval ran through the assembled soldiers. "But more than that," Velthar said, "I am formally requesting permission from Earth's Defense Corps to establish an exchange program. I want alien soldiers to train with human specialists who use traditional weapons, and I want human soldiers to train with our advanced systems. Both approaches have value. Both deserve respect." Lieutenant Borum stepped forward. "Sir, I can relay that request to Earth Command. I'm confident they'll approve." Velthar nodded. Then he did something that shocked everyone in the room. He removed his own sidearm and held it up. "I've carried plasma weapons for 20 years. I never questioned whether they were the best choice because everyone told me they were. Private Kim taught me that best depends on the situation. From now on, I'll carry both plasma and kinetic weapons." He attached a kinetic pistol to his other hip. "I encourage all soldiers to do the same." After the meeting, soldiers approached Hana with questions. Some wanted to know where they could get wooden rifles. Others asked about Earth's traditional weapons programs. A few simply wanted to hear about her grandfather and his workshop. Crystalis pulled Hana aside privately. "I analyzed the ballistic data from your shots during the mission," the Voloni sniper said. "The precision is remarkable. Better than computer-assisted targeting in many cases." "How?" "My grandfather says machines calculate, humans adapt." Hana thought for a moment. "Computers follow programs." But on that station, the situation kept changing. The reflective panels, Kron's armor, the falling beam, none of that was in any program. I had to see, understand, and react. Intuition combined with training, Crystalis said thoughtfully. "We Voloni pride ourselves on analytical precision, but perhaps we've forgotten the value of instinct." That evening, Hana sat in her quarters, cleaning her rifle as she did every night. She thought about the past week, the mockery at inspection, the desperate fight on the station, the moment when Velthar's own weapon nearly killed him, the respect she saw now in alien eyes. Her communicator chimed. A message from Earth from her grandfather. "Hana," the message read, "Lieutenant Borum informed me of your recent mission. I'm proud of you. Not because you succeeded, but because you remembered the lessons. The rifle works because you understand it. Your skills matter because you practiced them. Never forget, the weapon is only as good as the person holding it." I'm honored that my craftsmanship helped save lives. Stay safe, granddaughter. The galaxy is lucky to have you. Hana smiled and ran her fingers along the geometric patterns one more time. Tomorrow she would begin teaching. Alien soldiers would learn about kinetic weapons, about traditional techniques, about the value of simplicity. But tonight, she simply sat with her wooden rifle and remembered her grandfather's workshop. The smell of sawdust and oil, the patient sound of carving tools shaping wood, the old man's voice teaching eternal truths. Technology changes, he'd told her once, but principles remain. Gravity, momentum, friction, these never change. Master the principles and you master any battlefield. The galaxy was vast and full of advanced civilizations, but tonight, aboard the Celestial Dawn, a simple wooden rifle had earned a place among the stars. And a young human woman had proven that sometimes the oldest ways were still the best ways. Hana sat,